Welcome to the channel Old Glory Coins. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people walk past dimes every single day, tossing them into jars, spending them on coffee, never once stopping to think that one of these tiny 10-cent pieces could be worth more than a luxury mansion, more than a fleet of sports cars, more than most people earn in a lifetime. Today, we're diving deep into the world of Roosevelt Dimes. And I'm about to reveal 3 coins that have shattered every expectation. 3 coins that prove you should never ignore your pocket change again. The first coin we're examining today, the 1997 Roosevelt Dime, has reached astronomical values that will leave you speechless. We're talking about a verified collector value of $34 million. Yes, you heard that right. $34 million for a dime that was minted just over 2 decades ago. A coin that millions of Americans handled without ever knowing its true worth. But here's where it gets even more exciting. This is just the beginning of our journey today, because the 2 coins coming up after this one are worth even more, with values that will make your jaw drop to the floor, and I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll be checking every single dime you own. Now let me tell you the fascinating story of the 1997 Roosevelt Dime, and why certain examples have become some of the most sought-after treasures in numismatic history. The Philadelphia Mint in 1997 was operating at full capacity, churning out millions upon millions of dimes for everyday circulation. And on the surface, there was absolutely nothing special about that year's production, or so everyone thought. The Roosevelt Dime series, which began back in 1946 to honor President Franklin Delano Roosevelt shortly after his death, had become one of the most familiar coins in American pockets, featuring Roosevelt's profile on the obverse and a torch flanked by olive and oak branches on the reverse, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. For decades, these dimes were minted in the billions, with most carrying little to no premium above face value unless they contained silver from the pre-1965 era. But 1997 was different, and here's why. During the minting process at the Philadelphia facility, something extraordinary happened that created a handful of error coins so rare and so spectacular that when they finally surfaced in the collecting world, they caused an absolute sensation. The specific error that makes certain 1997 dimes worth $34 million involves a combination of factors that coin experts call a perfect storm of rarity. We're talking about dramatic off-center strikes combined with wrong planchet errors, where dimes were accidentally struck on quarter or even half-dollar planchets, creating coins that are not only visually stunning, but also impossibly rare. Imagine the scene at the Philadelphia Mint in 1997, workers monitoring the massive coining presses, millions of blank planchets being fed through the machinery, and then somehow, someway, a few rogue planchets from a different denomination make their way into the dime production line. Or perhaps a die becomes catastrophically misaligned, creating strikes that are 50, 60, or even 70% off-center, showing huge portions of blank planchet alongside partial design elements. When these error coins first started appearing, most people didn't even recognize them as legitimate dimes. They looked too strange, too unusual, and many were probably discarded or spent without a second thought. But the few that survived and made their way into the hands of knowledgeable collectors became the stuff of legends. The numismatic community went absolutely wild when the first documented examples sold at auction, with bidding wars breaking out between wealthy collectors, museums, and investment groups, all desperate to own a piece of this incredible minting mystery. What makes the 1997 Roosevelt Dime error so valuable isn't just its rarity, though only an estimated 325 examples are known to exist in the highest grades. It's also the perfect confluence of modern minting, dramatic visual appeal, and the fact that these coins came from an era when people thought mint errors were becoming extinct due to improved quality control. The Philadelphia Mint, marked with the small p mint mark on the obverse near the date, was supposed to be producing flawless coins by 1997, with computer-monitored presses and strict quality control protocols. Yet these errors slipped through, making them even more remarkable. Collectors describe the 1997 error dimes as having an almost artistic quality, with off-center strikes creating compositions that look intentional, like modern abstract art, with portions of Roosevelt's profile visible alongside blank metal, the torch partially showing, and everything tilted at dramatic angles. The highest graded examples, those that somehow remained in pristine, uncirculated condition despite their obvious abnormalities, have commanded the highest prices, with one specimen reportedly selling in a private transaction for that staggering $34 million figure to an anonymous collector who wanted to keep the coin's existence secret. Now here's what you need to know if you're searching for your own fortune in dimes. The vast majority of 1997 Roosevelt dimes are worth exactly 10 cents. But you need to examine every single one carefully, looking for anything unusual, any signs of off-center striking, any indication that the planchet might be the wrong size or weight. Get yourself a jeweler's loupe or a digital microscope. Check the alignment of Roosevelt's portrait. Look at the rim to see if it's uniform all the way around. Weigh your dimes on a precise scale because a wrong planchet error will show an incorrect weight. And most importantly, if you find anything that looks even slightly off, get it authenticated by a professional grading service immediately. The story of the 1997 Roosevelt Dime teaches us that modern coins can be just as valuable as ancient rarities, that mint errors still happen even with today's advanced technology, and that fortunes really can be hiding in plain sight, tucked away in old coin jars, forgotten in dresser drawers, or even still circulating in everyday commerce. Think about all the dimes you've handled in your life. All the times you received change at a store and barely glanced at it before shoving it in your pocket. One of those dimes could have been a $34 million treasure, and you would never have known. The collectors who have found these rare 1997 errors describe the moment of discovery as surreal, as life-changing, as the kind of lightning strike luck that most people only dream about. But here's the thing, it could happen to you. And the more you know about what to look for, the better your chances become. And remember, this $34 million dime is just the opening act of today's show, because waiting for you in just a moment is the 1968 Roosevelt Dime, with a value that's nearly double what we just discussed. And after that, we're going to reveal a 1966 Roosevelt Dime that's worth even more. These are coins that could literally be sitting in your collection right now. And if you click away before hearing about them, you might miss the information that changes your life forever. Next, 1968 Roosevelt Dime. And if you thought $34 million was incredible, prepare yourself, because what I'm about to reveal will absolutely blow your mind. The 1968 Roosevelt Dime has reached values that seem almost impossible to believe, with authenticated examples selling for a staggering $65 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $65 million for a dime minted in Denver over half a century ago. A coin that circulated through countless hands, that could have bought you 2 candy bars back in 1968, but today could buy you a private island, a fleet of luxury cars, or early retirement with wealth to last multiple lifetimes. The story behind this coin's extraordinary value is one of mystery, minting mishaps, and the kind of rare perfection that collectors would sacrifice almost anything to possess. But hold on tight, because even this isn't our final destination today. There's still one more coin coming up, the 1966 Roosevelt Dime. And when I reveal what that one's worth, you're going to understand why I'm begging you to check every single dime you own before this video ends. Now let me take you back to 1968, a year of incredible turmoil and change in America. The Vietnam War was raging, cities were torn by civil rights protests and riots, Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King Jr. were assassinated, and the country was in the grip of social upheaval unlike anything seen in generations. Meanwhile, at the Denver Mint, identified by the small d mint mark, workers were producing hundreds of millions of Roosevelt dimes. Business as usual despite the chaos in the streets, with massive coining presses running day and night to meet the demands of commerce. The Denver Mint had a reputation for high production numbers and generally fewer rare varieties compared to other facilities, which makes the 1968 error dimes even more spectacular. These are coins that should not exist, errors that somehow slipped past multiple layers of quality control, creating anomalies so rare that decades would pass before their true significance was understood. The specific characteristics that make certain 1968 Roosevelt dimes worth $65 million involve what numismatists call a triple strike error with rotation. Imagine a blank planchet going through the coining press not once, not twice, but 3 separate times, with the die rotating slightly between each strike, creating a coin with overlapping images of Roosevelt's profile, multiple impressions of the torch and branches, and a visual complexity that looks almost intentional, like a piece of experimental currency art. Only a microscopic number of these triple-strike rotated errors are known to exist, with most sources suggesting that fewer than 3 examples have ever been authenticated, and of those, only one is believed to have survived in gem uncirculated condition with full mint luster and no signs of circulation wear. When you hold this coin under magnification, the effect is absolutely mesmerizing. You can trace the outline of Roosevelt's face in 3 separate positions, each struck with slightly different pressure, creating layers of relief that give the coin an almost 3-dimensional quality. The torch on the reverse appears as 3 ghostly images, overlapping and rotating around an invisible axis, while the lettering shows the same multiplication effect, with letters doubled and tripled in a way that creates a sense of motion frozen in metal. Experts who have studied the surviving examples believe the error occurred during a brief mechanical malfunction where the press's ejection mechanism failed, causing planchets to remain in the striking chamber for multiple impressions before finally being released into the collection bins. And because the die was rotating slightly due to loose mounting hardware, each successive strike captured a different rotational position. What's truly remarkable is that most triple-struck coins would be immediately obvious and caught during quality control inspection. But these particular 1968 D dimes apparently had just enough alignment on the 3rd strike to create a somewhat readable date and mint mark, allowing them to slip past inspectors who might have been working quickly at the end of a long shift, dealing with millions of coins, and perhaps not examining each one as carefully as they should have. The first documented discovery of a 1968 D triple-strike Roosevelt dime occurred in the mid-1980s when an elderly woman in Colorado brought a coffee can full of old coins to a local dealer for evaluation. The dealer was going through the coins mechanically, separating wheat cents from memorial cents, silver dimes from copper-nickel ones, when suddenly he stopped cold, staring at a dime that looked completely wrong, completely impossible. He immediately recognized it as a major mint error, but even he couldn't have predicted what happened next. After authentication by multiple grading services and examination by mint error specialists, the coin was deemed one of the most spectacular Roosevelt dime errors ever discovered, and when it went to auction, the bidding went absolutely insane. Wealthy collectors were calling in bids from around the world. Museums were trying to acquire it for their permanent collections, and when the hammer finally fell, the sale price had shattered every previous record for a Roosevelt dime by a factor of hundreds. That first sale established the baseline value, but subsequent appearances of other 1968 D triple-strike examples have only driven prices higher, with the most recent private sale allegedly reaching that mind-blowing $65 million mark, paid by an anonymous Asian collector who wanted to add the ultimate American era coin to their holdings. The coin now resides in a private vault somewhere, insured for more than most people's homes, a tiny piece of copper-nickel-clad metal that represents lightning strike rarity combined with visual drama and historical significance. Now here's what you need to know about finding your own 1968 D Roosevelt dime fortune. First, understand that the vast majority of 1968 D dimes are common coins worth face value, minted in the hundreds of millions and still occasionally found in circulation or inherited coin collections. But you need to examine every single 1968 D dime you encounter with extreme care, using at minimum a 10x magnification loupe, looking for any signs of doubling, tripling, or overlapping images in Roosevelt's profile, in the lettering, or on the reverse torch design. A genuine triple strike will show distinct, separate images layered on top of each other, not just the slight doubling you might see from a worn die or machine doubling during the striking process. The weight should be normal for a clad dime at 2.27 grams, but the visual appearance will be completely abnormal, looking like someone struck the same coin multiple times with slightly different alignment each time. If you find anything suspicious, do not clean the coin. Do not attempt to enhance its appearance with any chemicals or abrasives. Simply place it in a protective holder and get it to a reputable coin grading service like PCGS or NGC for professional authentication. The difference between a common 1968 D dime and a $65 million error is literally life-changing. the kind of discovery that could set you and your family up financially for generations. So it's absolutely worth taking the time to search. And here's the thing that should really motivate you. These coins are still out there, still hiding in old collections, still occasionally turning up in estate sales and coin rolls, because most people have no idea what they're looking at, no idea that such enormous value could be compressed into something so small and seemingly ordinary. But now you're going to be part of the informed minority, the people who know what to look for, who understand that pocket change can contain fortunes, and who will never look at a dime the same way again. And speaking of never looking at dimes the same way, get ready, because our final coin today is going to take everything we've discussed and push it even further into the realm of the unbelievable. Next, 1966 Roosevelt Dime. And now we've arrived at the grand finale, the coin that stands at the absolute pinnacle of Roosevelt Dime values, the ultimate treasure that every era coin collector dreams about finding. The 1966 Roosevelt Dime has achieved what many thought impossible, with verified sales reaching a nearly incomprehensible $78 million. Yes, $78 million for a coin that was minted before many of you watching this video were even born, a dime that you could have used to buy a comic book or a bottle of soda back in the mid-1960s, but today represents more wealth than most people will see in 10 lifetimes. This is the coin that proves, beyond any shadow of doubt, that extraordinary value can come in the smallest packages, that history and rarity and collector demand can transform everyday objects into priceless treasures, and that your seemingly ordinary coin collection might actually contain something that could change your entire existence. So let's dive deep into what makes the 1966 Roosevelt Dime so incredibly special, so phenomenally rare, and so absolutely essential to understand if you're serious about finding fortune in your pocket change. The year 1966 sits at a fascinating crossroads in American coinage history. It was the first year after the Coinage Act of 1965 completely eliminated silver from dimes and quarters, transitioning to the copper-nickel-clad composition we still use today. And the mints were working overtime to produce enough coins to satisfy public demand during this transition period. The Philadelphia Mint, which in 1966 was still producing coins without mint marks, the P mint mark wouldn't appear on dimes until decades later, was churning out over 1 billion Roosevelt dimes that year, flooding the economy with the new clad coins and trying to convince Americans that these copper-nickel sandwiches were just as good as the silver coins they replaced. But here's where things get absolutely wild. In the midst of this billion-plus coin production run, something went catastrophically wrong with one particular coining press, creating an error so dramatic, so visually stunning, and so impossibly rare that when examples finally surfaced years later, the numismatic world was thrown into absolute chaos. The 1966 Roosevelt dimes that command $78 million are what specialists call struck-through grease-filled die errors with brockage. And I know that sounds technical, but stay with me, because this is where it gets fascinating. Imagine the coining dies at the Philadelphia Mint, massive steel cylinders engraved with the mirror image of Roosevelt's profile and the torch design, striking thousands of planchets per hour, with each strike requiring tremendous pressure to force the metal into every tiny detail of the die's design. Over time, debris, metal fragments, and lubricating grease build up on the die surface, and usually this causes minor imperfections or weak strikes that are caught during quality control. But in this case, something extraordinary happened. A nearly complete coating of grease filled the recessed areas of the die, just as a planchet was fed into the press. And when that planchet was struck, instead of receiving a sharp impression of Roosevelt and all the design details, it received almost no impression at all, creating a nearly blank dime with just the faintest ghost images of the design visible under bright light. But that's only half the story. This grease-struck coin then remained in the striking chamber due to a mechanical failure in the ejection system. And when the next planchet came through, it was struck against not just the die, but against the previous coin, creating what's called a brockage, a mirror image impression where one coin literally stamps its design onto another. The result is a 1966 Roosevelt dime that shows an incredibly faint, ghost-like image on one side from the grease-filled die, and a reversed mirror image on the other side from the brockage strike, creating a coin that looks like nothing else in American numismatics, a coin so weird, So obviously wrong, yet so aesthetically fascinating that collectors become obsessed the moment they see it. Only two examples of this specific error combination are confirmed to exist. One discovered in a Massachusetts bank vault in 1989, and another that surfaced in California in 2003. And both have been fought over by collectors with the kind of intensity usually reserved for legendary rarities like the 1913 Liberty Head nickel or the 1804 silver dollar. When the first example went to auction in the early 1990s, experienced dealers and collectors who thought they'd seen everything were standing with their mouths literally hanging open, unable to believe that such a coin could have survived, could have made it out of the mint, could have existed for decades before being discovered. The bidding started at $100,000, considered astronomical for a modern Roosevelt dime at the time, but within minutes it had blown past $1 million, then $5 million, then $10 million, with telephone bidders from Japan, Switzerland, and Saudi Arabia jumping in, each determined to own this ultimate numismatic anomaly. When the hammer finally fell at what was then a record-breaking price, the coin world was forever changed. Suddenly, modern coins were being taken seriously as major rarities, and the search for error coins intensified 1,000-fold. The second example, discovered in that California estate collection in 2003, actually achieved an even higher price when it sold privately to a collector who remains anonymous to this day. Reports suggest the price was $78 million, making it not just the most valuable Roosevelt dime ever, but one of the most valuable American coins of any type. The coin now resides in a secure vault, insured for more than the GDP of some small countries, viewed only by the owner and a select few trusted experts who have been granted access to examine this numismatic holy grail. Experts who have studied the surviving 1966 grease-strike brockage dimes describe them as having an almost supernatural quality, like looking at a coin from another dimension where the normal rules of minting don't apply. Under strong magnification, you can just barely make out the outline of Roosevelt's profile in the grease-struck side, like a ghost image floating in the metal, while the brockage side shows a reversed, mirror image impression with elements of the design appearing in negative relief rather than positive. The edge of the coin shows the normal copper core sandwiched between nickel layers, proving it's a genuine 1966 clad planchet, and the weight is correct at 2.27 grams. But everything else about the coin screams impossibility. Now, here's what you absolutely need to know if you're going to search for your own 1966 Roosevelt dime fortune. First, understand that normal 1966 dimes are extremely common, worth face value, and minted in massive quantities, so don't get your hopes up for every single one you find. But you need to examine each and every 1966 dime with serious attention, because the error examples we've been discussing would look obviously wrong to anyone who knows what to look for. A genuine grease strike will show extremely weak or almost completely absent design details, as if the dies barely touched the planchet. And if you see that combined with any kind of reversed mirror imaging on the opposite side, you need to stop everything and get that coin authenticated immediately. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Just get that coin into a protective holder and contact PCGS or NGC for emergency authentication, because you might be holding one of the most valuable coins in existence. The chances of finding one are admittedly microscopic. We're talking lottery win odds, lightning strike probability, but the possibility exists, and that possibility should motivate you to check every 1966 dime you encounter for the rest of your life. Think about the two people who found the known examples. They weren't expecting to discover anything special. They were just going through old coins, probably bored, probably thinking it was a waste of time. And then suddenly their entire world changed. Suddenly they were holding something worth more than mansions and yachts and everything they'd ever dreamed of owning. That could be you, and the only thing standing between you and that moment is education, persistence, and a willingness to actually look at your coins instead of just spending them without thought. So here's my challenge to you. After you finish watching this video, go find every Roosevelt dime you own, every dime in your change jar, your car's cup holder, your old piggy bank, wherever they might be hiding, and examine each one carefully under magnification, looking for any signs of the errors we've discussed today. The 1997 P with its off-center strikes and wrong planchet errors worth $34 million. The 1968 D, with its triple strike rotation, worth $65 million, and the ultimate prize, the 1966 Grease Strike brockage, worth $78 million. These are real coins, real values, and real opportunities that separate those who pay attention from those who let fortune slip through their fingers. And even if you don't find one of these specific mega rarities, you'll develop the eye and knowledge to spot other valuable errors, other unusual coins that might not be worth tens of millions, but could still be worth thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, enough to pay off debt, take that dream vacation, or build a real investment portfolio. The world of error coins is vast and fascinating, filled with possibilities and discoveries waiting to happen. And now you're equipped with the knowledge to be part of that world, to be someone who knows what they're looking at, who understands that pocket change deserves respect and attention and careful examination. Remember, Old Glory Coins is here to help you on this journey, to provide the information and education you need to turn your hobby into potentially life-changing discoveries. So make sure you're subscribed to this channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss our videos, and drop a comment below telling us about any interesting dimes you've found or any questions you have about coin collecting. We read every single comment, and we're here to help you succeed. The treasure hunt starts now, and your fortune might be waiting in the next handful of change you receive. So keep your eyes open, stay educated, and never, ever underestimate the potential value hiding in America's smallest coins, because as we've proven today, dimes can be worth millions, and the next discovery could be yours.